I'm so glad you chose to be here once again. Just like last time, I want you to find a comfortable spot. Maybe take a deep breath and just give yourself credit for showing up. This work isn't easy, but it is the most important thing we can do. Have you ever felt a strange paradox in your life? It feels like the more you try to be a good, kind, and accommodating person, the less people seem to value you. The more you go out of your way to make others happy, the more they seem to take you for granted, overlook your contributions, or even push your boundaries. You might not have the exact words for this feeling, but you recognize it in your body. It's that knot in your stomach when you swallow the sharp reply you really wanted to make. It's the quiet frustration that builds when you realize you've spoken, but nobody in the room has truly heard you. It's the confusing sting of seeing people who are demanding, cold, or even manipulative, yet treated with a level of respect you never receive, even though you are the one constantly striving for harmony and peace. What if this wasn't just your imagination? What if there's a real, logical reason this happens, even if it's a difficult truth to accept? Over 500 years ago, a political thinker named Machiavelli wrote something that sounds harsh to our modern ears. When you can't be both loved and feared, it is much safer to be feared. As uncomfortable as that statement is, it points to a fundamental aspect of how our world often works. The world doesn't always respond to good intentions. It responds to strength and clear boundaries. This isn't because people are inherently evil. It's because the human mind is wired to respect strength, not just promises of kindness. It naturally recognizes and respects barriers and limits. We are not talking about becoming a cruel boss, a manipulative friend, or a self-absorbed narcissist. The goal isn't to become someone you would despise. We are talking about something much more fundamental. It's about realizing that simply being a good person is not the complete formula for a respected life. Being kind without the strength to protect yourself and command respect is like having an open wound in the middle of a shark-infested ocean. Eventually, your vulnerability will be noticed. Perhaps you are at this very point today. You feel exhausted from being the giver who never receives, the listener who is never heard, the one who is always expected to step aside. You might be asking yourself, how can I earn respect without turning into a person I don't like? How can I project strength without losing the kind core of who I am? This exploration is for you. We are going to peel back the comforting illusion that simple kindness is always enough. We will look at what psychology tells us about the connection between fear, respect, and authority. With a little help from the timeless observations of Machiavelli, we can learn how to build a personal presence that others simply cannot ignore. In the real world, those who fail to set their own boundaries will inevitably have them set by others, usually far closer than is comfortable. If you are ready to finally understand the dynamics that have shaped how you are treated, then what you are about to read may permanently change how you carry yourself in the world. People don't respect kindness on its own. They respect what kindness represents when it is backed by undeniable strength. The common mistake is to believe that being a nice person is a complete strategy. We think that if we are polite, avoid arguments, and put others first, we will be automatically liked and valued. But that's not how human psychology operates. Respect isn't born from your good intentions. It's born from the other person's perception that you have authority and self-possession. And that authority is built with your posture, your firm decisions, and yes, a healthy dose of what could be called fear. It isn't the fear of violence, but the fear of consequences. Psychological studies have shown us time and again that humans pay close attention when confronted with a potential negative outcome. When someone establishes very clear lines about what is and is not acceptable, when they speak with a conviction that doesn't waver, and when they show they are willing to walk away from a situation that is disrespectful, the message they send is powerful and clear. You cannot cross this line with me. The other person's brain registers this as a boundary, a well-defended territory you don't enter carelessly. Now, contrast this with the person who always says yes, even when their heart screams no. Think of the person who over-explains their reasoning, hoping to be understood and validated. Think of the nervous smile used to diffuse a conflict that should be addressed, or the silence chosen just to keep things peaceful. To an outside observer, this person doesn't signal safety and security. They signal permission. They are giving an open invitation for their time, energy, and goodwill to be taken. And where there is unlimited permission, abuse and neglect often follow. Fear and respect are linked by a powerful, invisible thread. This has nothing to do with being aggressive, yelling, or threatening people. That kind of behavior is not strength. It's a mask for deep-seated weakness and lack of control. True psychological power is found in self-mastery. It's in the calm, steady silence that doesn't rush to fill a void. It's in a direct gaze that doesn't need to apologize for its own existence. It's in the simple act of saying no without your voice shaking, because you know you have a right to. Machiavelli wasn't advising rulers to be cruel for the sake of it. He was giving a stark warning about a fact of human nature. People are quick to forget the favors you do for them, but they are very slow to forget the person who made them think twice before disrespecting them. This doesn't just apply to presidents and kings, it applies to you at your job, in your circle of friends, and in your romantic relationships. Those who don't grasp this dynamic often spend their entire lives trying to be liked, but they are never truly taken seriously. Perhaps this is making you question everything. So, is it wrong to be a good person? Of course not. But this question reveals a deep internal conflict that many kind people face, and that's what we need to look at. We're going to discuss one of the most significant challenges you can face, the kindness dilemma. How can you tell when your natural kindness has been weaponized against you, turning into a weakness? And what are the first steps to take when you realize you're being taken advantage of precisely because you try to be a good and fair person? This may be uncomfortable, but facing this truth is the first step toward freedom. It's possible that no one ever taught you these rules. You may have grown up in a household or with a belief system that told you being a good person was the ultimate goal. You were taught to have empathy, to help anyone who asked, and to place the needs of others on the same level, or even above your own. The unspoken promise was that the world would see your goodness and reward you with the same treatment. But the real world operates on a different set of rules. In the real world, kindness that isn't protected by wisdom and strength becomes bait. And predators, whether they are conscious of it or not, can sense this vulnerability from a mile away. This leads to a silent, brutal dilemma. The more you pour your energy into being good and accommodating, the more vulnerable you can become to being used. This feeling eats away at you because it makes you question your very core. You start to think, is the problem with me? Am I just too nice? But then the next thought is terrifying. If I stop being this way, if I become harder, am I betraying my own values? Will I become someone I don't even like? This is the trap where so many kind people get stuck. They believe that to become strong is to become corrupted. But here is the critical truth that you might have missed. There is no genuine kindness without strength. A kindness that doesn't know how to say no, that doesn't erect boundaries, that cannot recognize when it's being exploited, is not a virtue. It is profound naivety. It's a psychological prison designed to keep good people in the role of emotional caretakers for others. This trap has a clinical name: dependency on external validation. You become so accustomed to your role as the nice one, the easygoing one, the understanding one, that your identity gets tangled up in it. You confuse being a peaceful person with being a passive one. And slowly but surely you find yourself in a series of unbalanced relationships with bosses, friends, or partners, where you are the only one making sacrifices, the only one giving, and the only one who truly cares about maintaining the connection. Psychology has a term for this as well: self-abandonment. You abandon your own emotional needs to maintain the image of being a good, pleasing, and lovable person. The price you pay for this is immense. You lose the respect of others, that much is true, but even more devastatingly, you lose respect for yourself. You have to understand this. Being a good person does not mean you have to be a weak person, but being a good person without the wisdom to protect yourself is the quickest road to resentment and pain. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He didn't want you to be cruel. He wanted you to be a realist about human nature. And human nature, at its core, respects those who can and will defend themselves. The question that logically follows is how to do this without going too far. How do you inspire respect and even a healthy fear of crossing you without becoming disliked or turning into the very kind of person you've always criticized? This is where we can look to Niccolò Machiavelli not as a villain, but as a brutally honest mentor. He was a man who lived his life surrounded by political backstabbing, warfare, and untrustworthy allies. He saw firsthand a truth that many of us prefer to ignore, that power doesn't naturally fall into the hands of the most righteous people, but into the hands of those who are the most perceptive. His most famous book, The Prince, came from this clear-eyed view of humanity. Some have hated it, others have revered it, but it has only been ignored by the naive. Machiavelli wasn't a monster, he was a radical realist. While other philosophers wrote about how leaders should be, he wrote about how they actually were. He knew that in a world driven by self-interest, being idealistic without being strategic is an invitation to be crushed. When he writes that it is safer to be feared than loved, he is not encouraging you to be a mean-spirited person. He's pointing out that the love people have for you is often fickle, conditional, and fragile. People may love you when you are useful to them, when you make them feel good, or when you help them get what they want. But that love can disappear the moment there is a conflict of interest, or the first time you dare to say no to a request. Fear, on the other hand, when it's understood as deep-seated respect for your boundaries, creates stability. It establishes an invisible fence that prevents others from taking advantage of you, manipulating you, or being disloyal. Machiavelli saw this fear not as a weapon for attacking others, but as a shield for protecting yourself. An individual who inspires no caution, no hesitation, no fear of consequences, will eventually be taken for granted. He also warned about finding the right balance. Fear must be measured. A person who is only feared and also hated is simply creating an environment where others will plot against them. True power is found in being respected, and respect is a careful mix of firmness, consistent behavior, and self-control. Now, take a moment and apply this to your own life. Are you truly in charge of your own existence, or are you allowing others to set the terms? Have you been the one who clearly defines your boundaries, or have you been the one who is constantly being tested and pushed to your breaking point? The answer is revealed in how you carry yourself and assert your will. This brings us to the most important question. How do you earn that fear-based respect without earning hatred? How do you build a personal authority so solid that people automatically think twice before disrespecting you? Not because you are loud, but because your quiet presence commands it. There is a huge difference between being feared and being hated, and navigating that fine line is the key. If you don't learn how to walk it, you will fall into one of two traps: the passivity that invites others to walk all over you, or the aggression that makes everyone want to see you fail. Being feared in this context does not mean being aggressive. It does not mean shouting, using intimidation, or trying to control people through threats. That is not respect, it is terror, and terror is unsustainable. It always backfires on the person who uses it. Machiavelli himself knew this. He wrote that a leader must do everything possible to avoid being hated, because hatred is a powerful motivator for rebellion. People can tolerate being afraid of consequences, but they cannot tolerate being humiliated for long. So, here is the secret. You need to be respected to the point where people would not dream of crossing the boundaries you have set. But you also need to be fair and consistent enough that they don't secretly wish for your downfall. How does this translate into your everyday actions? It means you must act with clarity, with a strong posture, and with unwavering consistency. You have to show people, through your actions rather than your words, that there is a social cost for disrespecting you. Your words must have weight. Your absence must be felt. Your presence cannot be something that is taken for granted. This kind of authority isn't built in a day. It is built through a series of small, firm gestures. It begins when you say no, calmly and without a lengthy, apologetic explanation. It grows when you physically walk away from a conversation that turns toxic or disrespectful, without needing to have the last word. It solidifies when you stop repeating yourself to people who heard you the first time, but are just testing your patience. It's about taking ownership of your emotional and physical space and making it clear, through your behavior, that you will not be pushed around by the whims of others. Now that you understand the importance of being respected and firm, it's time to look at the final piece of the puzzle, your own mind. It's not enough to intellectually agree with all of this. If on a deep emotional level you are still terrified of upsetting others, of disappointing them, or of being rejected for simply standing up for yourself, then the real work has to happen within you. Many of us carry an invisible conditioning from our childhoods. We were taught, perhaps subtly, that our value and our safety depended on our ability to please others. We learned that saying no was selfish, that disagreeing was rude, and that having our own needs was a source of conflict. The result is an adult who ties themselves in knots to be agreeable, who silences their own voice to keep a false peace, and who accepts far less than they deserve because they believe that setting a boundary might mean losing love. This is a toxic, unconscious belief that makes you a slave to the opinions of others. And the worst part is, the more you act out this people-pleasing pattern, the more ingrained it becomes. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach the world that your needs are not important. Every time you avoid a necessary conflict, you allow a small injustice to grow. What you must understand with total clarity is that respect begins inside of you. You will never project authority to the outside world if you don't have a firm foundation of it internally. You will not be able to set boundaries for others if you don't first believe that you are worthy of being protected. No one will take you seriously if you are constantly filled with self-doubt. Building this new, stronger identity starts with small, conscious decisions. It begins by simply noticing. Start observing the situations where you silence yourself out of fear. Pay attention to the relationships in which you feel like you have to shrink yourself to be accepted. One by one, you must begin to address these situations, not with explosive anger, but with quiet strategy and truth. You will find that as you begin to stand up for yourself, even in small ways, some people in your life will not like it. They might call you difficult, selfish, or arrogant, but you must understand that their reaction is not about you. It's about them, realizing they can no longer control you. Every time you change your posture for the better, you upset the balance for those who benefited from your passivity. And yes, you may lose some people on this journey, but it is an incredibly liberating experience to lose the people who were only in your life because you were easy to exploit. When you finally align your actions with your own self-respect, the world around you will have no choice but to respond. The relationships that were draining you will either end or transform into something healthier. You will stop searching for approval and start attracting genuine respect because you are no longer so easily available. Your time and energy now have value, and things that have value are always treated with more care. This journey isn't about achieving perfection, but about embracing your true self. It's about finding your way back home to who you are, stepping out of any limitations, and finally recognizing the warmth and light of your own inherent worth. You deserve this. You always have. Thanks for watching. If this resonated, please like this video and subscribe to stay updated. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Until next time, take care and be present.